Notice how quickly explosives can transform this 100-story column resembling the World Trade Center into dust. This is exactly what happened on 9/11. High-velocity explosives triggered to cascade in a visual way that makes it look like the building collapsed at free-fall speeds. This is what happened on 9/11. Pay attention to these horizontal ejections. They're a classic sign of a controlled demolition. In this footage, you can see the same types of ejections occurring right around the zone of the collapse. There are multiple examples of this. It gets so sneaky that they let off a few charges as the second plane, Flight 175, hits the South Tower. It's bait and switch, ladies and gentlemen. And as people were looking at the explosion rocking the South Tower, other explosions were occurring in the other tower. Now, you can deny the evidence if you want to, but one thing is clear. Absolutely everything that has been broadcast since 9/11 has been fake news. Fake news that keep people distracted from what really happened on that day. If you're listening to this,
What happened in 9/11 is we didn't have a strategy, we didn't have bipartisan agreement, we didn't have American understanding of it, and we had instead a policy coup in this country. A coup. A policy coup. Some hard-nosed people took over the direction of American policy, and they never bothered to inform the rest of us. I went through the Pentagon 10 days after 9/11. I couldn't stay away from Mother Army. I went back there to see Don Rumsfeld. I'd worked for him as a White House fellow in the 1970s. All this is in the book. And I said, "Am I doing okay on CNN?" He said, yeah, fine. He said, "I'm thinking about it." He says, "I read your book," and he said, this is a book that talks about the Kosovo campaign, and he said, "I just want to tell you," he said, "nobody's going to tell us where or when we can bomb. Nobody." He said, "I'm thinking of calling this a floating coalition. What do you think about that?" I said, "Well, sir, thanks for reading my book, and, he said, "Thanks, that's all the time I've got." Really? And I went downstairs. I was leaving the Pentagon, and an officer from the Joint Staff called me into his office and said, I want you to know," he said, "sir, we're going to attack Iraq." And I said, "Why?" He said, "We don't know." He said, I said, "Well, did they tie Saddam to 9/11? He said, "No." He said, "But I guess they don't know what to do about terrorism, and so they think, but they can attack states, and they want to look strong, and so I guess they think if they take down a state, it will intimidate the terrorists. And you know, it's like that old saying," he said, "if the only tool you have is a hammer, then every problem has to be a nail." Well, I walked out of there pretty upset, and then we attacked Afghanistan. I was pretty happy about that. We should have. And then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq?" He said, "Oh, sir," he says, "it's worse than that." He said, he pulled up a piece of paper off his desk. He said, "I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office. It says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran." I said, 7 countries in 5 years. I said, "Is that a classified memo?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me." He was about to show it to me. He said, "Because I want to talk about it." And I sat on this information for a long time, for about 6 or 8 months. I was so stunned by this, I couldn't begin to talk about it. And I couldn't believe it would really be true, but that's actually what happened. These people took control of the policy in the United States. And I realized then, it came back to me, a 1991 meeting I had with Paul Wolfowitz. You know, in 2001, he was Deputy Secretary of Defense, but in 1991, he was the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. It's the number 3 position in the Pentagon. And I had gone to see him when I was a 1-star general. I was commanding the National Training Center. I had met him one time. He said, "If you ever get to Washington, come look me up." They always say that. Well, I was there in Washington. It was a Friday afternoon. I'd visited Colin Powell. He'd given me 5 minutes of his precious time and sent me on my way, and I was bored in the Pentagon, and I thought, I'll just go, who can I see? I think I'll see Wolfowitz. So I called, and up there, he was available. Scooter Libby came to the door. I met Scooter for the first time, and he brought me in, and I said to Paul, I said, and this is 1991, I said, "Mr. Secretary, you must be pretty happy with the performance of the troops in Desert Storm." And he said, Well, yeah, he said, but not really. He said, because the truth is we should have gotten rid of Saddam Hussein, and we didn't. And this was just after the Shia uprising in March of '91, which we had provoked, and then we kept our troops on the sidelines and didn't intervene. And he said, but one thing we did learn, he said, we learned that we can use our military in the region, in the Middle East, and the Soviets won't stop us. He said, and we've got about 5 or 10 years to clean up those old Soviet client regimes. Syria, Iran, Iraq, before the next great superpower comes on to challenge us. And it was like, I'm coming out of the Mojave Desert. I've been training troops. I haven't been thinking geostrategy for some time. And suddenly a guy just sort of shoves this nugget at you. Well, you remember it. It was a pretty stunning thing. You mean the purpose of the military is to start wars and change governments? It's not to sort of deter conflict? We're going to invade countries? And my mind was spinning. And I put that aside. It was like a nugget that you hold on to. This country was taken over by a group of people with a policy coup. Wolfowitz and Cheney and Rumsfeld, and you could name a half dozen other collaborators from the Project for a New American Century. They wanted us to destabilize the Middle East, turn it upside down, make it under our control. It went back to those comments in 1991. Now, did anybody ever tell you that? Was there a national dialogue on this? Did senators and congressmen stand up and denounce this plan? Was there a full-fledged American debate on it? Absolutely not. And there still isn't. And that's why we're failing in Iraq. Because Iran and Syria know about the plan. All you have to do is read the Weekly Standard and listen to Bill Kristol, and he blabbermouths it all over the world. Richard Pearl the same way. They could hardly wait to finish Iraq so they could move into Syria. It was like a laydown. Oh, our legions are going to go in there. This wasn't what the American people voted George Bush into office. Well, they didn't actually vote him into office, but it wasn't what many of the people who... It wasn't what he campaigned on. He campaigned on a humble foreign policy, the most arrogant foreign policy in American history. He campaigned on no peacekeeping, no nation building, and here he is with Afghanistan and Iraq. It's astonishing. So the root of the problem is not how many troops are in Iraq. Please believe me. Don't be mad, if you're a Democrat, at your Democratic congressman because they can't reduce the troops and frustrate the president. That's not the issue. And if you're a Republican, don't be mad at the Democrats because they're fussing with the troops. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're an American, you ought to be concerned about the strategy of the United States in this region. What is our aim? What is our purpose? Why are we there? Why are Americans dying in this region? That is the issue.
last chance to find a little something good in this mess we've made. Don't tell me that it's over. We could start again. Life can make you sober, but I told you thick and thin, 'cause we don't.
NASA tells us that the Earth is photoshopped because it has to be.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then,
There was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
and then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just hit Command Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space.
Okay, I'm separating from the spacecraft.
Okay, separate from the spacecraft at this time, all right.
Okay, my feet are out. I think I'm dragging a little bit, so I don't want to fire the gun yet. Okay, I'm out.
Okay, he's out. He's close to free.
Okay, I put a little roll in, took it right out. Am I in your view, Jimbo?
Well, you know, I can't see it, I'm afraid.
Don't sweat it, I'll come over to you.
Yep, good versus 12, now we just let it go.
All right. Okay, I rolled off. I'm rolling to the right now. Under my own influence. There goes a... Looks like a thermal glass, Jim.
It is, Ed.
All right. Now I've come above the spacecraft. I'm coming back down now. I'm under my own control. Okay, I'm coming over.
It looks beautiful.
I feel like $1 million. I'm coming back.
Port stage pushed. Engine arm is destined. Okay, I'm going to get the pro. 99, proceeded. 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Right away, Houston. Vector grid. Ag thought. Pitch over.
Roger, you have good thrust.
Okay, 30 seconds. 308 your number. Tank coming through 1,500 feet, and H-dot looks good. Every G is on. Port stage, engine arm basket. 99 Pro. Good lift off, automatic. Taking about 306.
Space bubbles.
Dave Williams about to move out of the Quest airlock. Those particles that you see emanating from the airlock is said by the EVA officer Paul Baim in Mission Control to be particles of water from the crew's sublimators on their spacesuits.
So many times during spacewalks outside the International Space Station, we can see air bubbles rising up. Can you touch on how there are air bubbles in space?
Can you be more specific? Air bubbles?
So yeah, like a lot of times during the footage, the NASA footage, you can see bubbles coming up out of the helmets or kind of from underneath you. How do you explain bubbles in space?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, and it just happens that actors train in an underwater tank.
Why is it that even though the Earth spins at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, goes around the sun at 66,000 miles per hour, which travels through the universe at 500,000 miles per hour, which is expanding at over 1,000,000 miles per hour, are we able to take a picture of the sky on the same day every year and never see changes in the stars, even for thousands of years? Why does Elon Musk say, you can tell it's real because it looks so fake? That's because it does look fake. Look how the Earth glitches out in the background, but the car doesn't. And see how the Earth supposedly looks from the International Space Station, which is 240 miles up. However, this was taken from only 170 miles. Do you see an issue here? It's just like the Red Bull space jump in the Mythbusters episode that used downward-facing fisheye lenses to create massive amounts of curvature, but the non-fisheye lenses from the capsule and the cockpit show flat horizons, which concur perfectly with weather balloon footage more than 20 miles up. Which, by the way, 20 miles high is roughly the size of the bulge that should be in the state of Kansas due to it being 413 miles wide. Here's what 20 miles up looks like. That would be a large bulge for something that is supposed to be flatter than a pancake. And by the way, Kansas is only the 9th flattest state in the US. How many pieces of flat land does it take to make a ball? Why, when we look at the stars in December, do we see the same stars that we see in June? We should be looking in two totally different directions. If ships sail over the curve of the Earth, why are we able to bring them back into view with high-powered lenses as if they merely sailed past the horizon of the eye's angular resolution? Why are we able to see things over long distances, which according to the formula for a ball with a circumference of 24,900 miles, should be thousands of feet below the curvature horizon? And now, with infrared technology, we are seeing things that should be miles below the horizon, if we truly lived on a ball. If Eratosthenes proved the Earth was a ball thousands of years ago with an experiment using shadows, why do experts say that his results should actually be the same on a flat Earth with a smaller local sun? If the sun barely looks bigger than the other stars from Saturn, why is it able to completely light it up so that we can see it from Earth? And if something merely the size of the other stars can do that, why is the backside of Saturn not lit up by the billions of stars on the other side? And why are there dark sides to any objects in the solar system? If moonlight reflects the warm light of the sun, why is moonlight measurably cold? Why is it warmer in the shadows at night when it's the exact opposite of what we experience in the sunlight during the day?
Pushing all the buttons and hoping it turns out right. Always pretending I know best and I'm in control, but I don't know about this time. Not this time. Boy, you're playing my heart like an arcade video game, like a pass to win. Oh yeah, you're playing my love like an arcade video game, going insane. there's a memory. You were holding my hand tight, kissing on a moonlit street. And I've been missing you since then. Yeah, I still smell you on my sheets. Loving you is sweet, sweetheart. Losing you is killing me. Baby, I can't breathe. Baby, I can't breathe. I remember your eyes like a warm sunset, rolling on my king-size bed. Moments that I can't forget. And I've been missing you since then. Yeah, I still smell you on my sheets. Loving you is sweet, sweetheart.
Into space. So this thing is massive in its own right. And such a great thing to be watching here. And here we go. Now you see the sun hitting it. Look at that. Really taking off now. My goodness. And now you'll see it continue to shine through the night sky as it hits another thrust set right there. Just see the trail it's leaving behind. Absolutely amazing. And to describe it to you from, and you can see it, but from the ground, it almost looks as though a cloud of smoke with its own mind is just shooting through the sky. This is absolutely incredible. Again, you're watching the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launch from Vandenberg Air Force Base, this visible from Bakersfield. Absolutely incredible. And at this point, it looks amazing, but at this point, I really couldn't tell you what exactly is happening because space travel isn't exactly my line of expertise. So hold on to this shot for as long as you want. But Dave, Rochelle, when you're ready to take it away, please be my guest.
Don't you wanna be free like a waterfall flowing on the riverside, places you don't have to hide. Someday you find love, somebody to run to, walking by the ocean side, meet you at the mountain night. Just breathe in life and light it up. Pray for those who lost it all. Yeah, you know we are one alliance. Why going back to nowhere? We played a game, we kind of lost it. We cannot change, going under. The road leads back to nowhere. Yeah, the road leads back to nowhere.
Look at this. Look at that. Tell me that don't look like wood. That's wood, dude. That's wood. Just petrified wood. From a massive tree. bigger than anything they talk about in history. You can see the ring of this thing started way over here, right over there. The line went up, and it was, I mean, that's not even half of it. That's not even half the tree. You haven't even hit the center of it over there yet. These are just concentrical rings going out to sea.